All right, so going through a few practice problems. And I'm going to go really fast because we already showed the kids the problems, gave them some time to work on them, and now we are correcting them. Number one here, first thought is you got to start on the inside. Now, if you are in one of the other kids' classes, it is true there is another way to do it, but I've only taught my kids one way so they don't get confused. So the way I'm doing it is right, but if you have another way that works and your teacher likes it, fine. All right, we're going to start on the inside. Once you're on the inside, the parentheses normally go first. But, and this is true of all teachers, if you're going to go on the inside, you have to do it in the opposite of normal order. So since parentheses have to go normally first, they don't go first, and that goes first. So that 3 there, does that mean 3 times wider? No, it means 1/3 as wide. Now they might have said shrink, factor of 3. That's a good way to say it. If you get across the point, it's getting smaller with the word like shrink or narrower or some other word that means narrower or smaller, you're good. And the factor can be 3 or 1/3. Because if I say shrink with a factor of 3, obviously it can't grow. I can't multiply by the 3. I divide by the 3. So it's okay if you use 3 or 1/3. As long as you get across the point, it's getting smaller. All right, number 2 is the 4, and that is 4 to the left. Next one is go to the outside. Once you're on the outside, it's either this or this, and that would come first because multiply comes before add, and we do things in the right order when you're on the outside. And of these two, you normally stretch before you flip. Okay, so we're going to stretch next, and that's going to be 2 times taller. Fine if you, even better, in fact, if you say it's a vertical stretch factor of 2, that sounds great. Point is, it's getting bigger, and it's vertically or up and down. And number 4 is the flip then. So what kind of a flip is it? It's an up-down flip. If you said that it was a flip over the X, that's a great way to say it. If you said reflection, that's the official word. All right, and number 5 is the 5, and that is up 5. How many of you got to mark that one right on your person's paper? Good. All right, moving on. The length of a rectangle is 3 more than its width. Write the perimeter in terms of the width. I know some of you did this. Width, 3 more than the width. And that's wrong. That's 3 times the width. 3 more than the width would be like 3 plus W. Or W plus 3 is the same thing. All right. And now write the perimeter in terms of the width. So the perimeter is just all the way around it. The perimeter formula, remember how we have to have the picture and then we have a formula? Perimeter is 2 lengths plus 2 widths. Then I'm going to put in 2 empty spot plus 2 empty spot and drop in what the length is. The length is 3 plus W, or W plus 3, and the width is W. There's your answer. And I suggested that you simplify that, multiply it all the way out. P is equal to 2 times 3 is 6. I'll just do it 6 plus 2W plus 2W, or 6 plus 4W. 4W plus 6. Okay, so what if they left it this way and they did not reduce it all the way? I did specifically say on number 2 that I wanted you to do that. So if they left it this way, half a point off. If they got it all the way to here, then they did it right. Questions? Yes. If you used X, that's fine. X instead of W gets across the same point. No problem. All right, moving on to number 3. This was probably the hardest one. You got a circle made by coiling a piece of rope. So I got my piece of rope that's going like this, making my circle. Right? The area of this is 10x. The inside area is 10x. Well, to be able to do anything with this, I got to have a formula now. So what's the area formula for a circle? Area equals pi r squared. And did they tell me the radius? No. Did they tell me the area? Yes. So a lot of people didn't probably know what to do here. All you had to do is put that in for the area. And I'll have 10x equals pi r squared. What do I want to know about my circle? The radius of it. So now I can just solve it for r. Divide by pi, and I'll have 10x over pi equals r squared. Now I'll get rid of the squared, so the r will be alone. Square root, and I have square root of 10x over pi is equal to technically absolute value of r, but the negative answer won't matter because we're in the real world here where you can't have negative lengths. And so there we go. But is that what they wanted? No, what they wanted was the circumference in terms of x. All right, so I got to have a formula for circumference somewhere, and you might have even started that earlier and gone, circumference is 2 pi r, and then you'd be like, but I need to know what the r is. That's why we had to do all of that, to figure out what the r is. Okay, so we go circumference equals 2 pi, and instead of r, we put all that. Root 10x over pi. There you go. I know that was a tough one, but I think looking back on it, I hope you can see it's not that hard. Any questions about how do I get from here to here or whatever? Yes. Ah, okay. Yes, that's okay. The pies, wait a minute. Actually, the pies wouldn't cancel. Did she have this part before she tried to reduce? Then give it to her. But if you're going to try to simplify it, be careful you do it right. See, this one's a pi that's under a square root, so that's actually the square root of pi. That can't cancel a regular pi. You know what I mean? That's like different things. You can't do that. All right. On to number 4. Frame around a 5x7 picture. All right, so first of all, draw myself 5x7, and I have a frame around that. Oh, that's not very uniform. I'm going to try that again. Here's my 5x7, and my frame goes, it's better anyway, X in every direction, etc. I don't have to label everything. But here's the mistake people will make. Perimeter, they'll go, oh, this is 7 plus X. It's not. What is it? 7 plus another X on this end. See, that's why I probably should label the whole thing. X here, and 7 here makes 7 plus 2X. And this way it's 5 plus 2X from here to here. So now what's its perimeter? Perimeter equals 2 lengths and 2 widths. And I drop in my length is 7 plus 2X. And my width is 5 plus 2X. And there's my answer. Now, could you multiply that out? Yeah, it isn't that hard. Probably should have made you multiply that one out, but I didn't. All right, are there any others you want to ask about on this? If it's just written all the way out with 2 of these, that's fine. And 2 of these. All right, moving on to the last one. 8x10 piece of cardboard's cut out to make a box. The corners are cut out using squares. So here's my thing, and I cut out squares in the corner. And I think most people are going to probably get the beginning of this right because we've done a couple of these. But I'm afraid for you on that domain that you weren't probably thinking it through well. We'll see. If you get it right without the domain, you'll get half credit at least. All right. So the corners are cut out using squares, so that means all of these are x. X, 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 and X. And then how long is this right here? Well, right now, before I fold it up, it's 10 this way and 8 this way. Or I don't know which way the side's supposed to be longer, but anyway, let's just say it's 8 by 10 that way. Then, once I fold it on the dotted lines here, though, it's not going to be 10 long anymore. It's going to be 10 minus 2x. You see that? Because I have to take away the x here and the x here that are going to get folded up. And this one's going to be 8 minus 2x. And then the height itself is going to be x. So I go, the volume is length times width times height. Volume equals empty spot, empty spot, empty spot. And I drop in the length is 10 minus 2x. It doesn't matter which one you say is length and which one you say is width. 8 minus 2x is the other one. And the last one is x. That's the main point, and that's worth half a point. You got that. Now, here's the other thing, though. You will have to do this. And if you don't get this right, you will not get the full credit. You have to be able to find a domain on a problem like this. Now, what does domain mean? It means the numbers that would work. Do you get that a negative number in this problem would make no sense? Can't have a negative side length of a square. How about a side length of a square that's 0? Does that make any sense? Can you have a side 0 long? No. So it's got to be bigger than 0. So if I'm making a number line for myself, I'd say here's 0, and it can't be 0, and it has to be bigger than 0. But can it be unlimited? Can it go to like infinity? No. That wouldn't make any sense in the context of this problem. X can't be anything. What if I make X 20? I can't cut a 20-inch corner out of a thing that's not even 20 inches. So then you go to the smaller number of the two, the 8, and you ask yourself, could I cut out a square that's even 8 inches? No, it's got to be less than 8. How about like a 7-inch? No, because then it's cutting, you have to cut 2 of them out. And if you go to 7 out of the 8 inches, you aren't going to be able to cut another one out. So that brings you down to 4 inches. Can it actually be 4? No, because if I cut out a 4-inch on each side, there is nothing left to fold up. You know what I mean? This little side here won't exist if I cut it 4 and 4. So it has to be less than 4. So I would say my answer here would be it has to go from 0 until 4, and it can't be 4 either. And so my final answer would be, I'd probably write it this way, 0 to 4 parentheses. Or I'd probably even taken that, but this is a better way to say it. That's in the interval notation, what we usually like. Okay, how many of you are grading a paper that had either this or said it in words that it has to be between 0 and 4? Excellent. Okay. Give the person a score out of 5. There'll probably be a lot of 4s and 4.5s, I hope. Okay, I gotcha. I'm going to give it to them. But tell them that they really only want one. And it's the smaller one. Yes. Yes, you can. Hold on one second. Okay, so now, generally, if you had 5 out of 5, I would say you don't need to study too much. You're on the right track. You're going to be doing great tomorrow. How many of you had that? Raise your hand if you were the 5 out of 5. Nice job. How about 4.5 out of 5? That's still really good, and you probably know what your one mistake was. All right, how about 4 out of 5? That's still not bad. That would probably actually still be an A on this test because, you know, if you have a 4 out of 5, unless there was 2 halves, it would just mean you got one wrong, and you can afford to get one wrong on these kind of tests, you know, because you can get 3 out of 4 R3s and still be good. All right, so I wouldn't be too concerned if you got a 4 or a 4.5. If you got it, now you get into the 3s, I'd be a little more worried, and I'd say, okay, do I know what I was doing wrong? Was I really kind of lost until he showed me? Then you need to practice more. All right, so you judge for yourself on your score on how much you need to study now based on that. What I would do to study. Number 1, take the worksheet from yesterday and finish it. Number 2, check it, because all the answers are now posted for the last 3 worksheets. Okay, so you can look at any of those old problems and see how to do them. All of them are now posted. And lastly, I did not always assign every problem on the worksheets. If you want extra practice, if you're one of the kids that just had like a 1.5 or a, you know, something that wasn't real good, I would go back and do the ones you skipped before. That's a great source of problems that are like what we need to know. Okay? And also, if you want to come in for help, I will be here, but don't come in with your homework not done. I mean, you can be a problem not done, but don't come in with a blank homework and then say, I'm going to study for my test. You won't have time. You need to study at home and then come in and get help from me in the morning after you've studied some at home. All right. I will see some of you tomorrow morning, and we have a few minutes before the bell rings. If you want to work on your worksheets, etc., that'd be fun.